big welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, fellow panelists, for taking out your precious time on a Saturday afternoon for this important topic of the tenets of a successful M&A during this COVID era, and what are the caveats, do's and don'ts that we need to be careful of. For the convenience of everybody, I will just introduce the topic and also the people. So first, the people. So I will just open up my LinkedIn again over here. So of course we have with us Mr. Yogesh Wadhwa. He is the General Counsel, Nissan Middle East. So to introduce to him, 20 years in legal profession, mix of in-house and law firm roles, set up various businesses, negotiated, closed M&A transactions, worked with stakeholders all across businesses and managed complex litigations. So friends, it's our time with Mr. Yogesh Wadhwa. Then of course, we have Ms. Manjaree Chowdhary. She's the Executive Director and General Counsel, Maruti Suzuki India, an experienced General Counsel with over 2 decades of experience, successful history of working across industries, industrial, healthcare, power, and auto, and of course, inducted into the World Auto Forum Hall of Fame for contribution to global legal ecosystem. So here she is. Then going to the next person. Of course, you have already...
Anuj, go ahead to the others here. You have already introduced me. Overdose nahi chahiye. Please go ahead to Akhil and...
Well, it might be overdose for you, but for us, it's always the right dose. So please allow me to introduce again Mr. S. Ramaswamy, Managing Partner, Medha Advisors. So 33 years plus of experience, ladies and gentlemen, in law, and its application, and application being most important in material here. Former chairperson of Indian National Bar Association, INBA, and former general counsel at Honda Cars India, JCB and Escorts. Beautiful. And we just had a session with him and Mr. Nikhil in the simulation. And we have Ms. Anupam Sanghi, senior corporate lawyer and an expert mediator. And to introduce her, she's an expert with 25 years plus of experience on antitrust and competition laws, corporate transaction advisory, regulatory compliances, and intellectual property laws. And all these things play a pivotal role in an M&A, for sure. And of course, we have our Dr. Akhil Prasad. He's the Director, Country Counsel, Board Member, Boeing India. Friends, a professional who transformed the role of a general counsel from legal compliances and contracts to powering strategic business decisions and operations. He's a double doctorate with senior level corporate experience across media, automotive, consumer durables, financial services, and aerospace. And of course, inducted to the World Auto Forum Hall of Fame 2019. So it's your time with Dr. Akhil. Okay, so I hope I haven't missed anyone. Have I? I don't think so. And the next that we see here is what we're gonna discuss. All right. So the topic of our discussion. The topic of our discussion specifically is, as per the agenda, tenets of a successful M&A deal and critical reasons why they might fail in the COVID era. So as they always say, bad news first. So let's have the bad news first. At the same time, we have to be an optimist. So hoping for the best and ready for the worst. I will just quickly also show you the points that we had discussed amongst the panelists, what I had proposed. My duty to share a few cues. First point, of course, have the tenets of a successful M&A deal changed during the COVID era? The M&A activity has already picked up steam. We can see what's happening during the pandemic. We're already seeing, Gilead Life Sciences and AstraZeneca, looking at a merger and making possible the biggest health company merger in its history. 250 billion odd kind of a company. So how do we see it shaping up? Several companies might run out of cash, business, markets. How can M&A help mitigate their risks and exposure without losing too much leverage? Then how should the companies and individuals actually leverage their IPs, tech innovations and assets differently now? how businesses need to structure and restructure with respect to efficiency, HR processes, compliances, customer orientation, all leading to the M&A. Hostile takeovers, they should be more common than earlier. So the ethics code protections, especially in these challenging times. The business, social cultural aspects, and the complementary synergies of an M&A, which can be the prerequisite. Then post-acquisition merger, integration during the COVID era, because if you don't integrate well, you'll end up disintegrating. Impact of something which is all around, force majeure. So what's the impact of force majeure on the M&A, left, right, and center? Challenges to effective due diligence during a pandemic, mental health and morale of employees, deeper cultural and HR issues, because everybody is getting affected. The company board sentiment, shareholders, stakeholders, and M&A. What is the outlook and the approach during these times? The communication makes all the difference. So the M&A communication to the capital markets, stakeholders, customers, employees, the entire ecosystem, especially during a pandemic. And if everything fails, what is the plan B or C that we should have in case of a backlash? And how can we be extra intuitive of regulatory issues? We know, the regulators like SEBI, CCI. We need to be very careful. We don't land up, troubling them or they're troubling us. So with this, I'll stop the sharing. So we are back to our esteemed panelists. So would like to begin with Yogesh. So Yogesh has joined us from Dubai because he's heading the legal function of Nissan Middle East. So Yogesh, if you can help us with more of a holistic global view, what you feel sitting in Dubai and what you see from Dubai towards India and around Dubai on these aspects.
Thank you, Anuj. So I'll say that, it's, as we all have been talking, it's a unprecedented kind of a word and unprecedented kind of situation. Where at one side, it's a mix of a decision which the companies need to make, whether they put a brake on all the M&A kind of a deals, what they have been looking at, or they step up on the gas and then look for possible M&As from which they can possibly get a better valuation. So there are different kind of scenarios which seems to be emerging, and I'll say these are sector specific. So at one side, there are various sectors, say for example, tourism, hospitality, or aviation, which are the worst affected. So those kind of sectors, we can possibly look at a scenario where in case of any potential takeover, the valuation can actually go down. And that could be kind of a bait for a lot of companies to look at that and possibly look to acquisition. And equally, there could be other sectors like, say, technology, pharma, where all these kind of medicines and drugs are coming up. They may look to get a better valuation, and they may demand, in fact, a better kind of a money for any such kind of acquisition, if something like that comes up. If we talk of, say, the right kind of a scenario which seems to be happening, and broadly speaking, I've seen what I've been reading around, that a lot of deals have been put on hold for the time being. I mean, we have example of, for example, SoftBank, which was looking to do a lot of investment in WeWork, that has been put on hold. We have example of HP, where Xerox was looking to put in a deal for them, a big deal, and again that has been put on hold. So there are various kind of scenarios which seems to be happening. It's opening up a big world of opportunities, but equally there are companies who are getting very, very cautious on the due diligence to be conducted to preserve a possible cash. I've seen around that a lot of companies, they have been looking just to cut the cost. So for them, M&A comes secondary. I mean, it's the right way of just going ahead with the business and coming back on a normal business outlook scenario, putting M&A on a backtrack. So it's a very mixed kind of a transactions, a mixed kind of a scenario, full of opportunities and full of going ahead how to survive.
Fair enough, Yogesh. Those are very valid opening remarks. In fact, so taking this conversation to Dr. Akhil, Dr. Akhil, companies which are really starved for cash, and right now cash flow is the biggest thing, is the biggest challenge for a lot of companies. So companies starve for cash, they have bills to pay, they have salaries to pay, And if they get into an M&A kind of an exercise or arrangement now, so of course they lose the leverage, to the buyer. So in such a scenario, when there is, you have the death valley on one side and the demon on the other, if you can call the buyer the demon, he could also be termed as a savior. What should be the best bet from both sides?
So Anuj, you were breaking up. So if your question is that, given the situation that we are in today, in terms of where there is a stress because of COVID in the system. So I would say that there is always, and this is not only due to COVID. These things happen even in a downturn. That some businesses have a lower valuation than it is supposed to be. The COVID may have perhaps accelerated the impact, or some of the companies may have a bigger or a deeper impact. Especially, I'm a little concerned about the small and the medium scale enterprises, or when you look at the supply chain side of it, a bigger corporation, for example, something that is a multinational corporation may have deeper pockets, so that they are more resilient and they are more sustainable compared to the supply chain. So in terms of an impact, I do definitely see that the organization that comprise a supply chain perhaps may be more vulnerable for a lower valuation due to this COVID impact. And where we definitely will see that there will be opportunities that uh, some of the companies, which are more resilient. So we can't say generalize the fact that all companies which are MSMEs are equally suffering. Some of the companies may be having a better cash flow situation than most of the others, and there may be a horizontal or a vertical kind of a combination or a merger, which these companies may be evaluating, which may be troublesome for the promoters who are running those companies, that they may be in a financial difficulty. But if such companies are acquired whether horizontally or vertically, it will be good for an organization and for the people who have been suffering in the past also. It cannot be so that it is only due to COVID that some companies have run into a difficulty. They would have been running into a difficulty even before COVID. The COVID would have accelerated the impact, because of which these companies are in a deeper problem now. I would definitely like to see that from a corporate sustainability point of view, from an employee standpoint, it would be better if these combinations happen, whether on a horizontal level or on a vertical level, because ultimately the businesses have to run. And if you see the plus side of it, if you see in our industry, which is aviation and defense, we have seen SpaceX, launch satellites into space despite the COVID situation. So because they have been resilient, they have been, they had those plans, they had enough reserves to support those plans. We have also seen Reliance, raise whatever they have raised. So Reliance had, if you read a press release, say 40 days before, during COVID, it said they have cut salaries by 50%. And in 45 days, it says that they have raised close to $7-8 billion worth of, equity. So it is how the businesses really want to jumpstart, transform. It will completely depend, but we should not generalize the fact that the industry as a whole is suffering due to COVID, which may not actually be the case.
Fair enough, Dr. Akhil. And also, I would like to, possibly uh, share here that yes, there are good examples of Reliance and good examples of SpaceX, surely. But then, yeah, they are surely an exception. And earlier in the day, we were also discussing how all these fund flows in India is also adding to our foreign exchange and also less of consumption of fossil fuels. That apart, so trying to get Ms. Manjaree Chowdhary in the discussion. So Ms. Chowdhary, as we have always agreed upon, that the due diligence part before an M&A and the post M&A integration is most important. But where do these rules change pre-COVID, post-COVID, and what should be the basic reasons of getting for an M&A during these times? If you can, delve on these. You'll have to unmute yourself, Ms. Chowdhary.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, loud and
So,
clear.
I tend to agree with Akhil and Yogesh earlier, that there is no one size that will fit all. Of course, this is a very unprecedented kind of a situation. And it's very unique. On one hand, you will find that, because of the pandemic, the attention and the focus of the companies will be more towards self-sustenance, keeping business continuity. So your long-term plans of expansion or inorganic growth is actually put on the back burner. I mean, I come from a company where we don't do too many of these, M&As, but given the general scenario, I would see that people would be more focused on managing their current sustainability, managing their employees and health and safety. And there's just so much to contend with in the COVID scene right now, that long-term plans will be kind of put into the back burner. So that's one. On the contrary, you would see that there are industries like hospitality, like transportation, airlines, etc., hotels, etc. These are badly hit, and some of them are literally smaller MSMEs or etc. They are finding themselves very difficult, in a resource crunch, in the liquidity is a problem, and some of them are winding up shop. I can look at that also. So it will also create a parallel, kind of a situation where it will be a buyer's market also, and it will be you will find some sort of M&A activity that is going to come up in these areas, because there will be distressed deals and there would be rescue deals, etc. Restructuring would be happening, and people would like to get, both the seller would like to get out. Even if he's getting out of the business, he wants to get the best out of it before he goes, and the buyer wants to get the best deal out of it. So there are both sides to the coin in this kind of an environment. Now, keeping in this scenario in mind, if we were to look at, due diligence certainly is a very big and very important factor of any M&A deal. How does it get impacted in a COVID situation? I think one of the first things is that everybody is going to approach due diligence with a great amount of focus. So it is not a regular due diligence. It's going to be a due diligence that is going to involve many risk factors, and delving further into them, which are going to be COVID related or could result because of the COVID situation. In the future, just there are situations in M&As you look at, pre-closing and at the closing time, you can even change pricing, or you can change your situation, can change even at that point in time. So it's a whole sort of scheme of things that the whole chain has to be looked at. So due diligence is certainly going to be a very detailed activity. It is not going to be an easy activity, because it's going to take a huge period of time. It's not going to, excuse me please, it's going to take a long period of time, and because it's going to be very detailed. So the standardized due diligence, which we are all used to, and law firms help to do that, and there is almost they've kind of mastered the art, and we all know there's a fixed time within which it can happen, is not likely to, because there will be new things that will be coming out every time you delve into something, which every time you're going to look at it through the lens of the COVID pandemic to say what impact it could have. So there is going to be a huge amount of inordinate delays also in terms of doing your due diligences. And what it can have is that at the very end also, you start a deal, start looking at due diligences, people would not want to make commitments. So your letters of intent, etc., are going to look very different. Maybe people are not even going to get into those, because they don't know what is going to come out of the due diligence and what they would like to put into it. So the scenario is very different, and it is something that everyone is contending with. So I find that you will find lesser letters of intent, the buyers wanting the leverage in terms of that I want to do an incremental due diligence. I want to do that first. I want to understand what the risks are before I get into any form of a written documentation with you. And the buyer is also going to leverage it in his own way by saying that, okay, sellers can leverage it by putting out everything very clearly so that it facilitates the buyer to do their due diligence and things can move on. So it's a very evolving situation. We can only talk about it, and obviously when we get into it, we'll have to figure out how we have to do it. But these are some of the first preliminary thoughts around this.
So, Ms. Chowdhary, I would first of all suggest that you should, take a trademark on this incremental due diligence term. Because I just Googled it while you were speaking. There isn't much on it, even on the Google.
No. The incremental due diligence, I think, is only, doing additional to trying to find out a little more on the risks before you kind of commit yourself to it.
All right. So basically, in short, the entire cycle will get stretched.
Yes.
And the buyers might just like to see, in a sadist way, the seller bleeding cash and losing their leverage.
Correct. I think it's going to be, and everybody will have to play it very smart, whether it is the buyer or the seller. So if you think that it's only a buyer's market and seller has no leverage, well, smart sellers will have a leverage. It is how you play your cards and how you present yourself. But yes, it's not going to be like the usual normal due diligence that we look at in an M&A.
We've already seen Mr. Ambani and Mr. Adani, take
that. They're having a ball.
Having a ball. So with that, getting into the conversation, Ms. Anupam Sanghi, who is an expert on antitrust and competition laws. So Ms. Sanghi, even if the due diligence and the incremental due diligence goes through and, people come to signing on the dotted line, but many a times it runs into rough weather with the regulators, especially, the competition, antitrust. So what should be the do's and don'ts, especially in these challenging times? You'll have to unmute yourself, Ms. Sanghi.
Yeah. I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, loud and clear, Ms. Sanghi.
Great.
Yeah.
So I feel the M&A world will be able to cope with the crisis like it has happened in the past. Bust, or whether it was a 2007 to 9 financial crisis. But what's going to be different this time, besides the valuations or the buyers appetite and all of that, definitely regulatory issues will be far greater, and regulators would take much more time. They could take much more time, and it could be even very uncertain as to how much time that they would take. Of course, Manjaree already said that there will be due diligence issues also connected to it. So these are the things. And also when it comes to greater, deeper looking into clauses, and the regulators like CCI coming back to you on whether a deal is very concentrated for the market or not, the buyers would also be very skeptical. So boilerplate clauses, like everybody is saying, is not going to work during this time, and they are going to be very, very risk averse, especially when it comes to indemnities, regulatory risks, and even closing risks. Like we saw recently, just this month, Yatra deal fell off, and because it did not close on time. Now regulators could take their own sweet time, but if it doesn't close on time, the deals are falling off because the Yatra deal, essentially there could be more reasons, but what the news said was that it fell off because the US partner Ebix did not close the deal. So now coming to I think I would like to share at least two traps during such a panic situation. One is time wrap, which is that the parties are focused on the immediate. They just can't think beyond today. Survival is a problem. It's an existential crisis. So that is one. The other is that during times of panic, again, the parties tend to focus on their worst outcome. So they want to avoid the worst outcome of a negotiated agreement rather than focusing on what could be mutually beneficial outcome, which is the best outcome out of a negotiated agreement. And these are the two traps that need to be considered during such a time. And of course, one should find a possible fix how to get over this anxious situation, not to think about, not to allow your mind to focus on anxiety, but to think of a more collaborative approach where, you could start working around it today, and keep certain contingent measures to be worked around collaboratively for the future, because there are so many uncertainties to it, right? So I feel, it is more about working out collaboratively, going ahead to get a yes. In this, according to this book, Getting to a Yes, by written by Harvard professors, this book talks about how conflicts are very good. The world should have more conflicts because it's a real opportunity to grow. So after reading this book, and also as part of my training as a mediator, I've realized that in fact, even existing partnerships, they should actually work on their differences at such a time when the minds are more open and you have all the time to focus on something positive. So work on your differences before it becomes a dispute. And in fact, online dispute resolution has suddenly gained popularity, just like Zoom has. So you're getting expert mediators, whether from US or London, everywhere. And that's one thing that you can work around. And second is, I think the supply chain is very important, as Akhil said, because you may have all the deals, but what about your supply chain, and how resilient is it, how tech enabled it is? Today one virus has disrupted the physical flow of this world, but it's only technology which is fulfilling our need to stay interconnected. So I feel that supply chain is also extremely important, and I'm really skeptical about the Facebook and Reliance
Really?
merger
You're
when it
skeptical about
comes
that?
through. Uh,
Interesting.
there are a lot of issues. There
So
are a
what
lot of
makes you
issues,
skeptical about it?
even to do with the local kirana walas. So these are my thoughts about
So what makes you so
about today's situation.
Ms. Sanghi, this is very interesting now. What makes you skeptical about the FB Geo deal? What is skeptical about it?
Well, firstly, there are privacy issues to it. There are a lot of privacy risks which the CCI needs to look into, and they can only clear this deal with certain commitments. And they should at least think about these issues, particularly when there's no privacy regulator for the time being. They should only clear it with certain commitments and certain areas where the parties will not be breaching the privacy of the users. That is one. The other is the whole supply chain, as to how the kirana walas will get connected, along with the regular post the deal. There could be relating to privacy, there could be competition issues that could get triggered. Competitors will trigger it if the watchdog doesn't. And if they get caught into vertical arrangements, exclusive situations, then there could be regulatory issues constantly with them, especially when we know Reliance, the way it functions, and the way a US company like Facebook has to function is very different. Compliances are diverse,
Ms. Sanghi, your video is paused. I hope it is not Facebook or Geo sabotaging our conversation right now. Yeah. Can you hear us, Ms. Sanghi?
yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, so that is a very interesting perspective from Ms. Sanghi on the CCI regulatory privacy and the FBGOD. So, Ram sir, you've been patiently waiting for us. Sir, you've patiently heard everybody. What do you feel are the most important critical tenets for M&A during COVID era that all of us should be, taking cognizance of? So you need to unmute, sir. Ram sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
I said to use the stock exchange terminology of a bear and a bull. So here is a classic, and human beings are such a wonderful species created by the Almighty that given any situation, they'll be able to see, merit out of it. So you can see that right now happening also. So you took two examples about Reliance and space. So for me, if I was to correlate them, they are the bulls right now who are going ahead charging themselves come what may. And possibly with due respect to maybe them, is that they would have created a very healthy balance sheet in terms of cash reserves. Today, the situation is cash is king. And companies which have a good cash balance, which have a very clear forecast for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line of what they need to do, are the ones which are really going to laugh their way to the bank. And this is a right recipe for them, or right fertile ground, where they can pick and choose the kind of companies both on an organic and inorganic way that they can expand themselves. So this is my first take. So I see, and Akhil, what you had written bang on in terms that I am also an eternal optimist in the sense that this will become a norm, that how we are going to live now. So a situation like if I today go out to buy milk, my accessory first is put on the mask, have a sanitizer in my hand, have the Savalon also right next to me, because even if I have to go into a temple, the first thing I need to do is I have to wash my hands. So this will become part and parcel of your daily routine. So maybe in a way it's good. That's first point. Taking this back to a company, the company will also have to build in, its safeguards. So safeguards will come from where? They'll be learning from all these experiences. So they'll be very clear in terms of their hiring. When I say hiring, it has to be the right fitment of hiring. It can't be a hiring today done of a CEO who is going to leave in 4 months' time or 6 months' time, which will involve, not only investment. Emotional intelligence and emotional quotient is going to be a very important thing. Psychologists are now coming into play to ensure that people's mindset is correct. So lot of things are going to be new, which will be there now for times to come in terms of how business will be done. So some Manjaree talked about due diligence. The fundamental principle of a due diligence is people to people contact of you are actually looking into the books or looking into to find out is there any hidden Trojan available there. Now, given today's scenario, where can you do that? Even an auditor is going to grapple today when he is to do a financial, closing of an account based on the scanned documents that you are going to provide him. So he, how will that audit firm also, come to understand whether that is exactly what it is? So situation is going to change. But best part is, and I would say as an Indian and from an Indian standpoint of view, because we have the head start in terms of, the software industry being on our side. So maybe this is a good time for doing an R&D and, sprucing up our hardware and taking our AI intelligence further. So maybe then we'll be on the forefront in terms of the world, because AI is going to be now part and parcel of any and everything in a company. You mark my words, see in the next 5 years, what is going to be the R&D spent on AI. It is going to be phenomenal. Otherwise, the companies will just fall by the wayside. Akhil, I think I can say this with a lot of confidence that Boeing would be investing extremely heavily in AI, given your past, not so good in terms of those mishaps and all. As it is, you would have taken a lot of countermeasures by now. But given the new scenario, where like even when you are entering into an aircraft, it's like you're entering into a war zone, you know? So AI is going to play a great part. So, Anuj, if you ask me again, going back to my thing of 3 M's, men, management, material, take that in today's scenario in terms of, a post-COVID. for doing deals. She rightly said, maybe an interim. I would even go and add a word called roka, what we do. There will be a lot of rokas also, so that, you don't lose out on that bride. That's how, you will bring out companies which are able to bring out of box thinking. Take the classic example of Reliance. I would say masterstroke, the way he has been able to, cough up this kind of money, and see how he has increased his own stake. Pata hai usko, nobody will buy. Abhi itne, he has been able to buy back his own shares.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you there, Ram sir. So after hearing everyone, so Yogesh, you are sitting in Dubai. What is the current scenario in the Middle East? Is it any different from what's here in India? So you are actually the geographic center of the planet, of the world. So you can look on the left, you can look on the right, you can look in the center. So what's your perspective?
So, I tend to agree with Ram sir quite a lot, as he said that this is a time of changes, change to the mindset, change to the way people work, and change to the way industries are actually investing and expanding. So here, if I talk of specifically, say, UAE, here the economy has kind of opened 100%. I mean, it started with, say, 30% of capacity where people can go back to the office. Starting tomorrow, we are allowed to go 100%. A lot of precautions are being taken for the safety of the people, but equally, it's being said that we all are responsible. We are supposed to stay with it, wear your mask, go to the office, maintain your social distancing, but the work must go on. It's something which you need to stay on. If I look at, say, the Europe side, or say even the Japan side, things are still picking up. There, it's people are still being very, very cautious. The offices have opened not more than, say, 10%. The government is still funding and paying the employee cost to the company, where the companies are actually saving the money. So that's one scenario, which is one extreme. And then if you look at, say, companies like, say, even US, there we are hearing of scenarios where everything again is coming back to a normal. So Europe, Saudi, UAE, it's all mix of a thing, but slowly and slowly everywhere, the economy is opening up. I mean, even the countries have started realizing that this kind of a pandemic is here to stay. We need to look at various different means to live with it and to continue to grow. Innovations, technology, AI, as Ramsar said, that is the next thing to happen.
Great, fair enough. So, friends, we're also open to questions. If there are any questions coming to your mind, we'll continue discussing. If you have any questions, just simply raise your hand. And you can also mention the person to whom you wish to direct the question. So, friends, fellow panelists, any last few words which are coming to your mind, words left unsaid, please feel free while we wait for the questions to come in.
So Anuj, I would like to say that especially I can talk about India. That given the COVID situation that we have faced, I would say the government has done a commendable job in terms of especially talking about the self-reliant India. Which not only supports the MSME sector, but it also has a lot of doors on some of the reforms, especially as I look on the defense side. For example, for the first time, India has opened that foreign subsidiaries in India can foreign subsidiary, which means more than 51% of a foreign entity in India can do defense manufacturing. This is for the first time it has happened. So far, it was reserved for 49%. And that was a major problem which most of the OEMs like us has been advocating, that we should have more reforms. So a subsidiary of a foreign company now has been allowed to do manufacturing for defense in India. And then in addition to that, we have seen some very good reports. For example, yesterday we were reading that India has now $500 billion worth of reserve. So $500 billion worth of reserve for the first time in the Indian history, economic history. That also speaks volumes about the future, why India is so attractive and remain to be attractive in future. The current government is very proactive. No matter in future, there will be more reforms. But that is something which I see signs of positivity. And the way people may criticize it, but the way standard operating procedures have been laid down for the lockdown situation, I would like to see that tomorrow, if India continues to have 18 cities out of 20 the worst polluted cities in the world, uh, these SOPs will enable us to do a lockdown in these cities to bring down pollution. So that is one positive thing I see that has now been established, that we may now tackle pollution as well. So if cities are polluting, standard operating procedures, so 3 or 4 things which I definitely see are very, very positive about India.
So cleanest cities and less of crude import, high cash reserves. I see a lot of fingers pointing towards the automotive now. So
No, Anuj, there is a huge potential for used car market. That is going to be the next surge.
true.
People will like to, not go by public transport. Maybe because of the initial fears, they may like to graduate from two-wheelers to maybe cars. And what better than maybe the used car market will be the first big,
Absolutely.
positive
I,
sign
I,
coming
I,
in.
yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Ramji.
In
That is
fact,
the area which at least if I were a consumer and I was using public transport, I'd
Correct.
like to go for a used car first.
in fact, I can give the same perspective that in UAE also, the used car segment is increasing tremendously for all reasons, and coupled with say the potential scrap policy which is likely to come up in India. I think
Yes,
that is going to be the game changer for the auto industry.
correct. And used car market was anyways has done well even last year. I mean, and this year perhaps in this COVID situation, it is likely to take off even more.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
As Miles Davis said, don't play the butter notes. So don't stagnate. It's really a time to be ridiculously curious to find creative solutions, and especially tech enabled. And when it comes to tech enabled, there's a lot of gray area. So again, be stunningly ethical and be risk averse, and find creative ways to maybe shadow the future instead of thinking of today.
Absolutely. In fact, Miss Sanghi, I had one question. When you were talking about the regulatory watchdogs, do you feel that during the current challenging time and pandemic, can we expect some empathy from the watchdogs, or they will be as harsh and pointed as they always are? Would they go a bit soft? Miss Sanghi, can you hear me? Am I audible?
So
Yeah.
actually, in the developed jurisdictions earlier during financial crisis, they have said this is the time to be more careful, because this is the time when people want to cheat. So we don't want people to cheat. We want the market to be still very competitive, not to allow them to take it easy and take it as an opportunity to cheat. So maybe CCI will use such examples to not allow you to do certain things, although they have always been very inconsistent. So it's very difficult to tell whether they will be harsh or not, because sometimes they are themselves very confused as to what is harming the market, what is not. So I've always found that it's better to guide them, to be proactive about guiding them that what we are doing is only beneficial for the market, and instead of going on a defensive stand once they come to you, and when once the investigation starts, even if somebody files an information against you, I feel in the first hearing itself you should be going full on and totally ready to explain everything. Many people keep information on the close to the chest at such a time, but that's the time when you need to guide them.
Fair enough. Yes, Ram.
You know, any crisis, they say it's the leader who leads the pack, who can make a difference. And here is where I actually, doff my hat to the CEO of our country, the Prime Minister, for biting the bullet, as well as, taking all measures, keeping the countrymen in mind. When you do things, some things may go wrong also, but the fact that he insulated us and ensured that this pandemic is tried to be brought under control, And we talk about, the SOPs are there on a daily basis coming out, whether it is from the center, whether it is from the state. And there seems to be a kind of a cohesiveness being built up between the center and the states. I think it's a great example for federal and state relationship, and an eye opener to the entire world, that everybody thought that maybe, oh, India, okay, maybe we are on fourth right now, given our size of population. But also, if you see now, our rate of recovery has much exceeded the rate of the pandemic, which is catching on. And one last point, this is one pandemic which the rich have given to the poor, and it's not the poor which have given to the rich.
That's a fair submission, Ram sir. So now coming to our closing remarks, if I can just request all the panelists to just have their closing remarks on few points, few takeaways, key takeaways and actionables they would like to leave the attendees with, say on survivor skills, say something on cash flow, how to stay secure in your business, how to stay afloat. A few final takeaways. Please feel free. And meanwhile, we have one question also. Should we take the question first, or do we do the closing?
Take the
question? Okay. So we have Mr. Subham Khanna, who's wanting to ask us the question. So I'm just getting him in, and he can ask. Meanwhile, we can just think of our closing remarks. Yes, Mr. Khanna.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon to all the panelists. It was indeed a very insightful session. And my question is to the entire panel, not specifically one. Panelists, keeping in mind the Addis Ababa Convention of 2015, can we say that a big shark or a big private entity of a developed country can invest in a governmental entity of a developing nation to fight with this COVID-19 or to maintain the economic stability of that particular developing country?
Okay. So it's the
Akhil, you go ahead. Maybe you have the best perspective,
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question, and my response is that it happens all the while. So when this is the era of globalization, although some of the countries, some of the leaders are trying to make it more local, but the globalization impact has always been there. So when we see partnership between foreign players as well as in government of India, there are vast number of projects where it has been done. So especially in our case, if I talk specifically, if I talk about Boeing, Boeing has done a great infrastructure project at Hindon. We developed the infrastructure partnering with the Ministry of Defense and with United States government to build a very solid infrastructure for the C-17 programs, the 11 heavy C-17 Globemasters that we sold. So it was a government and a private sector participation. But we are not the only ones. There are so many companies which are doing so. Even the foreign governments tie up with Indian government all the while, to build up the base, the infrastructure that we have in India today. So yes, so it has been in the past, it will continue in the future, in my view.
okay. Yes, Ram sir.
Two examples I like to quote out of my, knowledge to Shubham. The one is about the Cochin airport. That is a classic example of the state getting investment from a private party. And you see where Cochin airport is today, considered amongst one of the best. And another trivia that I can share for the benefit of all here is that we all have seen the Petronas Tower. How many of you know that the Twin Towers are actually not built by the same promoter, the same contractor? They are actually built by two separate contractors, but they were given the same set that you have to prepare this and you can't have a delay. So both came up simultaneously. So that's the power, you have to think out of box and you have to bring the best out of the, different people. So maybe his question, I'll put it this way, that in case somebody wants to invest, most welcome. Then invite more bids and, have such a kind of a healthy competition that they want to do the best and they give us the best. And we laugh our way all the way.
Great. So it's very heartening to know that there were two different
And and
contractors.
Anuj, another example is our own automobile industry. We had only ambassadors and Fiats earlier.
Yes.
Now we have all the foreign brands manufacturing in India.
Absolutely. And also we have Indian companies going out and acquiring foreign companies and truly becoming global. All right. So any closing remarks, friends, for which we would like to leave our attendees empowered to fight and survive and thrive in these challenging times?
So I would start, Anuj, I would start that my closing remark will be, as a part of the financial reporting, when we close our results, the board of directors submit report to the shareholders under the board's report. What I would like to see, and I would strongly recommend, is people on this call, please insert a section how your company survived COVID. What are the special initiatives which were taken by your organization to combat COVID, and how your company was resilient. I can assure you that if we are able to demonstrate in a report to the shareholders and the stakeholders that we have lived a transformation during COVID times, your enterprise value will multiply, because that is the key, that despite this pandemic, if my company has grown, we should do that and report that in the director's report to the shareholders.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's super.
If I might go next, Anuj, I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Sure.
I think the pandemic has given it's created a big situation, certainly. I think the first thing that businesses need to work on is to see that you have a very strong business continuity plan. That's very, very important. Most organizations in India actually do not. And you can, even if we did a survey right now, am I audible?
Yeah, loud and clear, loud and clear.
So most of them did not have. They have built all these plans on the go. And while they have built it, I think the only thing one would say is that work on them. By just building on them once is not going to be helpful. I think you have to continue to relook at them and continue to reinvent yourself as you continue to progress during this pandemic period. Because what you did in April is not going to hold good in June, and what you do in June is not going to hold good in September. So it is like a work in progress that you have to continually keep on upgrading and looking at, be it your supply chains, be it your vendors, be it your employees. Another point here is that, given the fact that the businesses there's a slowdown, there is barely any activity as of now, and it's not likely to pick up very quickly. It's going to be a slow progress. So there is going to be a lot of time on the hands of the businesses. What they should try to do is use this time productively to look internally within themselves, look at their processes, look at their initiatives, see how they can become smarter and more agile organizations as they go forward. What is it that they need to cut out? What is it that they need to build extra? So when I say build extra, I also mean looking and evolving and reinventing on new business models, new strategies. The way you did business 5 months ago is not the way you're going to do it 5 months from now. So what are you going to be your new business models that will work during this period? And how are you going to continue to evolve? And lastly, mind your workforce. Look after your workforce, because your workforce is going to be your largest strength as you go forward.
Well said, Mr. Really appreciate.
I think I'll add to what Manjaree said. That there seems to be the spirit of becoming Atmanirbhar, as our Prime Minister also said. So this is a time where a lot of localization is happening at one side. I mean, that seems to be a lot of stress from the top government itself. We are looking at a lot of industries which possibly have gone dead in the past, specifically say on the medicine side, which needs to be brought back on MSMEs and small scale industries. Plus, it's a time of innovation. So India is a vast country. There are so many opportunities which are available, and equally sitting at such a vast kind of consumer base, we can attract a lot of more investment, which seems to be happening at this point of time. So it's a word of opportunities, time to grab as much as possible.
Great. So, time to grab. Yes, Ms. Sanghi, any last few words from your side, especially for the people who are too scared of the regulatory watchdogs during these times?
Yes, so this slowdown time is a good time to clean up your mess and to build relationships. Cash will always be king, but build relationships during this time so that you can really have a long-term game plan, and rather than focusing on a lockdown today, plan to really slow down.
Great. And by the way, people from Facebook and Geo are members and they are regulars to World Order Forum. In fact, Facebook had also partnered us 2 years back, for the India Vehicle Sales and Marketing Summit. So in case they want some help, we can route them to you. As you said that it might be, their deal might be needing some professional help. So thank you so much, dear fellow panelists. It was a great pleasure and an honor for you to take out time on a Saturday afternoon, which belongs to you, and you've taken out time. And I'm sure the attendees will go back home empowered and strengthened with a lot of information, knowledge, and confidence and positivity. And we have two things more to do. We have to thank our team, which has been, the reason why this program was possible, and we have to thank our annual partners, the reason by which we can do such things in and out. So I will just quickly share the screen, show you our annual partners, and then take our team in. So I think let me take the team in first. So I'll just take the team in. It's Mr. Jerry sir, whom we call, and Munib. And while they join in, I'll just quickly show our annual partners to you. Okay. So.
Oh, you were quick off the block to look at Petronas Star also, huh?
Yes, because there are annual partners also.
Really?
Petronas Group company is our partner. I'll just show you how. It's a company called Amplus. They're into solar. And why we took them as our annual partner? Because the automotive industry is always facing this flag that, that we pollute or we are responsible for the carbon emissions. So we thought, hey, why can't all the automotive showrooms, the dealerships, workshops, warehouses, factories be actually powered by solar? I'll just show them in the sequence. So of course we have our gold partners. They are Gallup's Motors, one of the leading retail chains of automotive in the country. And then of course Motor Uncle, which is an in-house venture for the confused car buyer and the hassled car service customer. Our OEM partner is Volkswagen, the number one car maker in the world, and of course known for cars with solid build. Amplus Solar, as you can read in the footer, it's member of the Petronas Group.
Okay.
So they are into solar and one of the biggest players in the world, and they are our annual partner. And right next to them is Shell, the number one lubricants company in the world. And of course, K2B Learning is also an annual partner. They into trainings and enterprise learning solutions. Jubilant Motor Works, part of the Jubilant Group, the Bhartiya Group. They are also into automotive retail. They represent several OEM car brands across the country. And of course, our media partners, the Autotech Review, which are leaders in automotive technology, and Patriot, a newspaper with a fine lineage, started around 60 years back by our revered freedom fighter, Miss Aruna Asaf Ali ji. So these are our partners. So I'll just do the stop sharing. And here we are with our team, if we can thank our team. So we have with us Jerry sir, and we have with us Munib.
Thank you.
Thanks a ton, Jerry sir, for making it happen, for all the coordination, all the help, all the work. Words are not enough to thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And as I said, on a joyous note, Jerry is going to give us virtual samosas.
Yes, sure. Sure, sir.
Absolutely. And Munib is also doing law, and he's in final year law now, and he was doing all the coordination and mobilizing people to attend from Srinagar, where he is right now. So because he's on a 2G connection, hence we aren't able to see his video. But despite it,
thank you, sir. It was a very fruitful panel discussion, and We got to know the intricacies of M&A and the way forward. And I wish everyone all the very best in their future endeavors. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Great. Thank you so much, Munib.
Thanks,
Thank you
Munib.
so much, Jay, sir. And thanks a ton, fellow panelists, for the great session. And of course, last but not the least, the most important, our dear participants, the attendees who were there, who made it happen, and who have been patient enough to be there for such a long program. We started at 11 a.m. It's almost 4, so it's close to 5 hours. We have been doing this. So great, fantastic. And please don't forget to share your responses, how you found the program, in the chat. And thank you so very much. Wish you all the very best. Stay strong, stay healthy, and let's action these points that we have learned now all through the day. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you so much. Yes, Ram.
Anuj, I just wanted to ask one question with Yogesh. Yogesh, you are with the Nissan group, right?
Yes, sir.
Just convey my regards to Ashwani-san. Ashwani and me go a long way back.
So,
Tell him
Sure,
that
if I
Ramsar
can-
reminded him.
If I can reach him, I will.
Yeah, please do. I was very happy to see him the other day on his chat. So tell him that he's doing a fine job.
even I chatted with him on LinkedIn the other day.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great to meet everyone.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, friends, please do not forget to share your thoughts, how you found the program. It will be very important for us. These feedbacks are very important. They help us improve, get better. They help us get they motivate us. So please do not forget to share any improvement points. As I say, bad news first. Anywhere you feel we did wrong, we were not right, we were miserable, please share those points first. And anywhere you feel we were good, please share those points too to motivate the team, both ways. Jerry sir, you are muted right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for everyone.
Thanks a ton, Jerry sir. Thanks a ton, Munib. Really an amazing
Thank you,
program.
Munib. And Munib has really done good work. Amazing.
Munib has done
Thank
good,
you, sir. Thank you,
good
sir.
work.
Thank you, sir.
Jerry sir, I must appreciate the way you were working till late night, getting Ram sir, and ensuring everybody, even Miss Sanghi, that they don't have any problem. In fact, had we not done that trial last night, we would have faced huge issues today during the program. So
Right.
your practice and trial sessions really helped immensely, I would say. Immensely.
Thanks for your support also, sir. Thanks for your support.
So much. Thank you.
Thanks a ton, sir.
Okay, so with this, it's a wrap, friends. So till our next program, ciao. Take care. Bye-bye. See you. Have fun. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.